In this video, I'm going to walk you through the process of creating a useful visualization to identify trends and patterns in your data set. This is data that I've downloaded from the New York Fed website, which shows household debt broken down by quarter and the type of debt that it is. Now, before we jump in, if you're finding these tutorials and tips helpful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe, and make sure to enable notifications so you never miss another video. In an example like this, you might be tempted to create a stacked column chart, which I've done here just to show you what it would look like. But this is not an ideal visualization in this case, just because mortgage debt takes up such a huge chunk of the overall debt that it's skewing the chart. And so your one option is to exclude it or just do a different visualization altogether, which is what I'm going to do. So one way we can help visualize this data more effectively is by showing the growth rate of these different components of debt. So for example, I'm going to create a category, a field for mortgage growth, HE revolving growth, auto loan growth, credit card growth, student loan growth, other growth, and total growth. And let's wrap this text so it's easy to see what we're looking at here. Make all the columns, let's say about 13. There we go. So it's nice and easy to read. And to calculate the growth rate is as simple as just taking one value, dividing it by the same value in the previous year, or the same quarter than the previous year. So for example, here I've got Q1 of 2004. I'm going to divide that by Q1 2003. Subtract 1, and now I've got my percent change. I can copy this across to these other sections as well and copy that down. And just like that, now I've got my growth rate. And so now I can start to see some more meaningful data because now I can see the overall trending and how these different components are growing. And one thing to help bring this data to life is to use some conditional formatting to show where the highs or where the big jumps, where the big declines happened. So I'm going to select all this, and under conditional formatting, I'm going to select a data bar, this green data bar here, and now I can see the overall trend. Now, the one thing to consider with conditional formatting is your data is going to be relative to the entire data set. So even though this is a 12% decline, it seems significant, it's not significant because we have such significant jumps here. So one way to sort of normalize this or eliminate that impact is, let's say we get rid of this stuff before 2011. So it's dated information, and now we see these values are much more significant now, so a lot more meaningful. Another thing that's an issue though is these numbers, it's hard to really see these numbers. So what I'm going to do is adjust them to the right hand side. So right align them, and now it's a lot easier now to see the values along with the colors and to identify these trends. But there's still something I don't like about this, and that's because an increase in debt is generally a bad thing. And here we've got a green conditional formatting rule. So I'm going to go to conditional formatting, go to manage rules, and I'm going to edit this rule that I've created. And so here we can set what our gradient fill looks like and what the border looks like. So I'm going to change it to red because this is the default one, and the border to a darker red outline. If I click on negative value and axis, then I can change the fill color here. So that one is green and the border is dark green. If I hit OK, and apply, and now I've effectively flipped those colors around. So now when there's a decrease in the debt, it's a negative value, and those bars are green. If there's an increase in debt, it's red, and those values are positive. So now it makes more sense now, because if we see a green pattern, that's a good sign. That's better. The debt level is coming down. So by visualizing this data set, we can quickly identify a lot of trends here that just by looking at the stack chart, we wouldn't be able to see. It's hard, or at least it would be much harder to identify. For example, we can see that for HE revolving growth or revolving debt, that's been declining for a while. It started to pick up in 2022. And then we can see the credit card debt started to decline in the early period of 2020. And then as those stimulus payments came in and people were paying down their credit card debt, so we can see the effect of that there. But then after that ended, credit card debt started to accelerate again. And so by visualizing the data this way, it's a lot more useful than just using a stacked column chart. And this is where conditional formatting can have a lot of advantages, because you see both the trend with respect to the data set, and you can also see the number of values really easily. So going to a chart isn't always going to be the best option when you're analyzing data. By doing it this way, by using conditional formatting, you can help identify patterns and still see the values there. So this is a much more effective visualization in that respect than just going through and using a stacked column chart.